Yeah, appreciate that, Annalisa. Thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. I think this is going to be a very interesting topic, a lot of things that no one is speaking about in the e-commerce world. So I put a lot of time and energy into this, and I'm just thankful that you're taking time out of your day to join us on the webinar. Annalisa, how much time do I have?
So we should be ending at 45.
Okay,
so
great.
35 or so minutes of presentation and hopefully some time for Q&A.
Okay, great. We got like meaty nuggets to go through together. So I'm going to be going very quick. If people have questions, they can always pop them in the chat box. They can always email me at chat@Skubana, but we got a lot to get through. So let's make it happen.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take myself off a webcam so you're the sole focus
don't
here
do
now.
All right. So hello from San Diego. My name is Chad Rubin. I am the co-founder of Skubana and the CEO. I've also been in e-commerce for 10 years. I founded a company called Crucial Vacuum that morphed into Think Crucial, manufacturing home appliance parts and accessories. So we sort of ate at the restaurant that we built, and we've been dog-fooding the software out of my own problems of running a business and automating it, and started Skubana. Wrote a book as a blueprint of how I created a lot of my private label success. I'm huge into sharing and reciprocity. It's called Cheaper, Easier, Direct, and it's on Amazon. So of course, check it out if you like what I'm sharing today. There's me and my wife in India. We love to travel, and there's my cat, Kali, wearing her bow tie. She's business as casual. So Skubana, just real quick, we are an operational back-end system to run and automate your business. We do everything after the checkout. So imagine order management, inventory, automated purchase orders, and profit across anywhere you sell, whether it's B2B, B2C, or even a pop-up shop, all in one place. We are running a lot of the coolest micro brands, D2C companies, along with some of the largest Amazon merchants with our software. Here's a couple of them. We got amazing reviews, and we certainly love customer satisfaction and making people happy. Stay tuned. We have a massive giveaway at the end of this that I'll be sharing with everybody. Yeah, this is my first time presenting this topic. I've been working on my thesis on this for quite a period of time, so I'm excited to share it. So today we're talking about essentially getting ranked with Google without actually spending any money and just by optimizing. And I go in this order. The order of importance here is very important. Speed, which is like the foundation. Then you build your backlinks and your authority, and then you drop content afterwards. So what we're going to talk about today is really only specific to the United States. So if you're essentially trying to rank internationally, this is only around the United States ranking methodology on Google, and it's not specific to essentially a region or a city. So it's not for local businesses. It's more or less if you're trying to rank nationwide for products. So the foundation really is commerce is changing. The lines between B2B and B2C are really starting to blur, meaning direct consumer companies are now starting to sell, say, to Sephora or to sell to other big box stores, and big box stores and other big incumbents that have been in traditional retail are now starting to sell direct to consumer. So there's convergence that's happening. And back in the day, there used to be a lot more moats to protect your business, meaning there's huge structural advantages to having a massive distribution channel. People had network effects, or it was harder to essentially source products, or maybe even people had customer loyalty as a moat, or the inconvenience of switching. And I believe that these moats have withered away in today's commerce in 2019. And really what you're left with is new moats. This is a photo of me in Scotland with a group of entrepreneurs. And essentially the moat is essentially something that's impenetrable, like it's protecting your company from other people invading it. It's a competitive advantage. And it kind of almost feels like, based on those other moats that I talked about, that there's not really a lot of moats out there. However, there are new moats right now, and those new moats are essentially having a real brand that resonates with people, building an audience. So essentially, instead of going out to find customers, you're generating an audience. And there's this thing that's happening, which is that companies are now becoming, I think people are moving away from faceless companies. And that's even happening with influencers. People want to buy from people that they like. And so people also want to buy from people who they believe are the authority. And so what this defines, in my opinion, is essentially is a traditional media company. Media companies are all about optimizing for eyeballs and for attention and building an audience and having a brand. And that's the convergence I see that's happening that can essentially protect your business going forward. Because right now on Amazon, you're going on Amazon, you're buying mostly commodities. So you have this Amazon bifurcation that's happened, and then you have an off Amazon the anti-Amazon opportunity for brands. And there's two different, it's segmenting to two different areas right now. So you essentially want to become a media company. And so you've got these outbound levers that that people right now, even e-commerce, are using, right? Display ads, Google PPC, social media PPC, email lists, print, radio, audio, etc. And so this is changing. You're renting these. And what this presentation is about essentially is about inbound, pulling people in. So pulling in via organic, free traction that you can get by some of the tactics I'm going to share with you today. And this is completely scalable, and anyone can do what I'm about to share with you. So if you look here, like this is from a site that I was just looking at where it was comparing who we're competing with for eyeballs. And you can see here that like Skubana, for example, we're competing against other people for eyeballs. And some of these are media companies and some of these are commerce companies. I believe that if you looked at your own site with this, you'd also see the same thing. You'd see that there actually is essentially you competing against media companies. All right. So to win at acquisition in this new model, real estate is the key. So you want to be on every piece of the board to win, where people search, go where they are going. So we talk a lot about Amazon. We talk a lot about social. Everyone talks about voice, but I'm going to speak specifically to Google. And Google still has 80% search share right now. They actually just launched Google Shopping Actions, which is essentially a marketplace to compete against Amazon. So you should check it out. Skubana just actually launched that in our app store, so you can connect with Google Shopping Actions. Write that down, because now they're moving away from a CPC model to a referral model, where you actually know your costs up front and you do the checkout through Google. But anyway, I digress. So you want to optimize your content for Google. Now, who's doing it well? So if you want to search, if you want to look up whatever product you sell, let's just say it's actually you're searching luggage, right? You type in luggage or best luggage, and you can see or carry-on luggage. You can see who's showing up for that criteria on Google, and you essentially are going to use the tactics I'm about to share with you to essentially dominate them and essentially beat them out in discoverability on Google. But let's talk about some people that are doing it well. Cotopaxi, one of our great friends at Skubana. Cotopaxi essentially has events that they put together where they're building a community. They also have a blog. You can see Away Luggage. They're also, in my opinion, becoming a more media company. They have a magazine. They've got a podcast for people that are traveling. They're becoming an authority. They're drawing eyeballs into their platform. And so Away is really not just a luggage company. They're a travel company now. And so they're looking at themselves in a very different way. They are essentially want to become the experts in travel, the same way Casper wants to become the expert in sleep. And so I like to just watch brands that are absolutely crushing it. So you can see here that Away, first of all, they're renting the channels. We talked about rental channels, which is a push strategy versus a pull strategy of creating content. And so they are doing some rental strategy, right? You can see here they have a Google cost per click. You can see Away has, if you go to Facebook and you go to this bottom left, I don't know if people know this, but you can essentially see all the ads. Because of all the things that have happened on Facebook with the election, et cetera, now they've exposed all these people's ads at the bottom left-hand corner, so you can see the ads that are on Facebook for Away. And so essentially what you're looking at here is when I type in best carry-on luggage, you have your PPC right here, but then you have all your SEO. So today's presentation is about hitting this SEO. It is the gift that keeps on giving. It's not a rented model. You literally can own the channel by creating the best content possible based on, again, what I'm about to share with you. I'm just setting up, this is the appetizer. So you can see here 10 best luggage, which is shared by Google, and this is in the stack. They call it I think they call it the feature stack on Google. There's different names for it. There's also these frequently asked questions, essentially, so you want to make sure you're answering these questions when you actually design your content, which we'll go into momentarily. Just keep in mind, you want to design the best content, you want to be here for SEO. So today, again, we're focusing on Google. I think it's a great channel to double down on, and essentially it's free money for you. So how do you go from renting the channel, which is paying for ads, to owning the channel? So this is the strategy we're going to go through today. We're going to go through speed, optimizing your site for speed, because you want a frictionless experience, and certainly Google looks at speed. We're going to talk about backlinks, building backlinks, and we're going to talk about content. Sound good? Okay, cool. Let's get into it. So for speed. All right, so Google is on the record saying that they literally look at speed as an indicator of SEO. And essentially, the faster your site performs, it's a low-hanging fruit because you can rank higher in discoverability. Google uses page speed in their ranking algorithm. That's what you need to know here. And here's some links where you can see Google talking about it. You can see HubSpot talking about it. But essentially, the idea is that they don't want a bad experience. So the higher the relevancy and the less friction your site provides, the more you're going to be put to the top of Google. And this is low-hanging fruit. Now, how do you figure out what your site speed is? If your site is too slow or is bulky, Google will essentially not rank you over time. So say goodbye to your customers and ranking from an SEO perspective. If your site is bulky, you're going to have to keep renting those channels. So we're going to essentially remove speed as a roadblock today. This is super important. So I'm going to go through some tactics of what I use, how I analyze different companies' speed, so you can optimize yourself and essentially build the foundation so you can layer on links and you can layer on content. So I use GT Metrics. It's a free site. You put in your site and you can essentially get a scorecard back of your site speed load time. And you can see what to optimize. And there's also another site called Pingdom that you can use as well. But I use GT Metrics. And so you can see here, I did an analysis of Away Travel just to see what their speed came back at. And they're at an E. So they're not at an F, they're at an E. You can see that they're extremely slow site. Now you can see that they have slow load times and the requests are high. And so essentially you don't want to be that high at all. 25 to 50 requests are ideal. Load time, you want to be about under 4 seconds. Page speed, you want this to be about 80%. You want these to be about 80% or above. And you want to be at the A range. And you can see down below here the page speed. You can see where you should be optimizing here with GT Metrics. Super important. But again, some of these D2C companies don't really care about organic. They just want to rely. They have a great unit economic model where they put in $1 and they make 10 on Instagram and Facebook, and they can do that all day long. So I looked at a few of the top brands across essentially D2C companies. So these are some very well-known brands, and if you look, they all are ranking below an A, certainly below. I don't see a B here. I do see some C's, and you can see everything to E and F. And so small hinges swing big doors. So making small changes can really move the needle for you. And so like when I was looking at speed for my own site, I was trying to figure out what's slowing my site down and making a business case for each script that's running on my site. And so when you are building your site on a lot of these e-commerce platforms, there's apps that get plugged into it and can essentially boggle it down. And what you want to do is you want to free it up and focus on what's most important. So sometimes you want to kill some scripts, but you have to audit what's important. And you can see that your site is making requests constantly. There's a lot of time spent waiting in the browser queue here. This is called the waterfall chart. And there's too much brown. So we got to find out what's causing this and remove it. So that's important. That's the first thing you should be doing after this webinar is take a look at your site, do an audit. Next is you want to essentially do a app audit, count the calories of your apps. And so the average Shopify Plus merchant has 12 apps connected. Average. However, I had 32 apps installed on my back-end shopping cart versus the average merchant of 12. So you can go through the list and essentially start killing what's not important, the unnecessary. Have a bucket list, have an effort list. So essentially figure out where are there good calories here, what do you use and what don't you use, and start getting rid of what you're not using. Very, very, very important, especially these are low-hanging fruit things you can be doing today. And you will see a huge difference. You can see the empty calories. I had 11 wasteful app calories. I would try to remove everything that was compromising the user experience. Subtracting is sometimes better than addition. And essentially you can go into your Shopify admin store, cut the dead weight, remove unnecessary apps. And by the way, sometimes if you remove an app, this is just important notification. Check your theme files, make sure that there's no lingering code where it's dragging down site speed. So just make sure you know what you're cutting. There's also a site out there called Commerce Inspector where you can essentially see every app somebody's using. There's also, you can use built with, again, you can see what other people are using. You can see what you use, but also you can see what some of the biggest Shopify Plus merchants are using something like builtwith.com or Datanyze or even Commerce Inspector. You can also find out what their top revenue is using these. This is just a small little pro tip I wanted to share with people. Again, for me, it's all about value, value, value. All right, so you've optimized for speed. Now you need to get more traffic. So you built the foundation. Now you need to start building your house. So most importantly, some people talk about content first. I want to talk about backlinks. So backlinks is essentially kind of like a vote. When you have the primary election, people are essentially throwing votes indicating which politician has the most authority, who they want to vote on, who they want to essentially become elected. And so backlinks are just like that. It's a vote that says, it tells Google that you are important and you are relevant. Now, in a vacuum, backlinks and content separately don't do much. Like you can write great content, but if no one's around to see it, did you really write good content? Same thing here. So this is Mario. I love Nintendo. So Mario with the firepower, now you become Super Mario, right? And essentially backlinks are the power up. It's the first thing that you can be getting to give yourself authority. So links plus domain authority plus then give you the content power helps you drive traffic. That is the formula. So here's some must-use link building strategies that I use. Again, link building is about essentially having other sites linked to your sites so that you can become more discoverable and is a signal to Google saying you need to rank higher in their search engine. So first thing you want to do is you want to sort of see how you rank, how you stack up to others. So you can see here the referring domains. You can see the backlinks that some of these domains have. So away travel has 47,000. I'm just focusing on luggage here. Meanwhile, eBags has looks like 2 million. Travel and leisure 3 million. Samsonite 6 million. So you need to essentially be building backlinks, and you can see how others are doing it. So I'm using here, I think I'm using SEMrush or Ahrefs. And essentially, this is the moment where you're like, shoot, I could really build a link building campaign. You can see that there's some plateauing happening. This is, to me, a not good link building campaign, right? It's kind of plateauing, it's a little bit stagnant. And there, you have a great link building campaign. You can see it's going up and to the right, which is what you want to see. And it's not just about the quantity of links, by the way, it's also the quality of the link. So if I get a link back from somebody on a site that has a higher authority to Google, it's worth more than a link perhaps that has less authority. So one great way is to use some of these sites to essentially reverse engineer your competitors' backlinks so you can essentially befriend your competitors. So you can see Away Luggage on Ahrefs, I can uncover their backlinks and I can see what are important based on the domain rank. So these are the most important backlinks that they're getting. Those are areas of priority that I want to maybe double down on. So it's good to look at competitors. It's also good to just like think out of the box and think about what are other sites that are relevant that you can link to or that can link to you that essentially can increase your authority, and you can use a site like Ahrefs, which I use and I pay for, to do that. And I have no affiliation with them at all. I don't think they know I'm giving this presentation, just something that I'm using. I'm just sharing my tools. So you can also use Google Alerts to alert you when your competition gets a link or a blog post. Build a relationship with these people, become their friend, take them to coffee, dinner, whatever. Essentially, everyone writing about your competitors or in your ecosystem should become your friend, and you can always, over time, ask them for a link back and just provide value. The more value you give, the more you're going to receive. So there's some other sites you can use. Like I said, Ahrefs is what I use, but these are some other resources that you can use to essentially get linkers to your site. Again, this should not be automated. This is the same thing with listings. You need to essentially focus on the quality of your listings, and that's the way to win. You want to focus on the quality of your links. You don't want to hire some company that's not in the United States to be doing this stuff for you. And there's a lot of times it can happen. You can be doing it yourself, or you can get your team to help you on this process. So ask yourself this question: who does Google trust that I can get a link to my brand? Who in your network do you have? What are the top 50 people in your network that perhaps have good authority on Google that can link to your brand? And then you can feed their content engine with guest posts. So you can give them free content, and essentially with that free content comes a link to your own content. So it's a win-win. You get great relevant content on their site, and you get a high-quality link on top of it. Also, you want to make sure that you're dropping a ton of value. It's not about quantity, like I mentioned. You want to target influential people and get them to link to your content. So here's some criteria that we look for link building. You want a domain authority of 20 plus, over 15K of traffic on a monthly basis. You want it to be United States and relevance. Essentially, any unilateral link is more important than a bilateral link. So, like, some people want a guest blog post and to do a swap. Essentially, if I got a guest post on, let's just say, CPC strategy site for Skubana, a one-way link would be more important than a two-way link. A lot going in here. We're going super quick. I just want to make sure I'm dropping as much value as we possibly can. So go out and get it. Go out and get those links. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, but the hustle is worth it. There's a database that you can reach out to essentially news reporters called Cision. It gives you access to reporters, and you can add value. Instead of saying, hey, I want you to write about my company, you can write about the industry. Like I talked about earlier, Away Luggage is not a luggage company. They are a travel company. So how can you essentially add value in the travel world and build an audience? That's really what you're trying to do here. And there's these are the actions of essentially what you'd want to do in Cision, where you'd scan the relationships, figure out who's relevant, segment the list, develop your pitch, give them the content, manage the relationship. This takes time and effort, but I promise you the berry is worth the squeeze. Help a reporter out is another great one where you can get access to reporters to essentially become a valued expert in your field, and another way for you to get links. You can use some tools like Pitchbox to help you manage these campaigns for link building. Believe it or not, there's link building tools out there like this that help you manage this process and make it a lot easier. And then essentially you can hire, I included here a sample job description, but you can essentially hire a backlinker to do this work for you via Upwork or FreeUp. So building the link building strategy is just half the battle. The other piece is essentially building content. You can have great links, but then if you don't actually manage those links build authority and layer on content that could rank extremely well, you're not going to win. You're not going to get to page one. And a lot of times what I think about when I'm essentially creating content is, what does it take to get to page one? What's important to Google? And by the way, the other thing to mention is that content is extremely important to unlocking backlinks. Remember, we talked about guest posts, for example. Creating content that you can give as value to other sites is very, very, very important, and you can use it as a feeder system to get backlinks. Or even if you're going to do like a PDF or a guide, these are all very important things that you need. So we're going to focus on content now, which is the third piece of the strategy. And I know I've been going extremely fast, a lot to cover. Take a breath. Okay. So content. So to create unbeatable content, number one, you need to give Google what it wants. And when you look at Google to see who's ranking on page one, Google is telling you what is most important. And you can see it based on the frequently asked questions when you search something. Google is giving you all this information. The next is you can reverse engineer your competitors' content and just build better content. People call that the skyscraper method. So building a bigger skyscraper, and that's building better content. You want to create unbeatable content with the fundamentals I'm about to share, and then you can go in and build the machine and scale it. So let's get into it. Buckle up. So we're going to learn what Google wants. We're going to reverse engineer competitors. We're going to build on the fundamentals, and then we're going to build a scalable machine. So Google has this PDF that not a lot of people talk about, which is here in this presentation. Essentially, it tells you what is most important to them. What is a high quality page? So it's expertise, authoritative, which is essentially having authority, and then trustworthiness. So you want to have amazing content, and you want to follow the directions of what they exactly want. What makes a high quality page? Now, speed is just like the baseline. That's like table stakes. Then follow this method. So first you're going to do is you're going to analyze your competitors and build better content. So using Ahrefs, you can see essentially when you go to here top pages on Ahrefs, bottom on the left-hand side here, that you can see what's driving the most traffic to a way. And so you can essentially see what's the highest traffic pages. And you can grab all the keywords of those pages. So if I actually hit this down arrow right here, I can see every keyword that's contributed to a way travels page that I want to maybe check out and look for. So you can do this for any of your sites. Super important. You can also focus on the percentage of traffic keywords. So what is driving the most traffic to, say, Shopify, as on a percentage basis, not just on a numbers basis. So you can see here, this is what's driving traffic to Shopify. So you want to essentially double down on those. If you want to essentially get eyeballs from Shopify, by the way, and they have a great domain authority. I think they're probably in the 200 Ahrefs rank. You can essentially see what content that's driving traffic. I mentioned Google Alerts earlier. Mentioned another great site. It allows you to essentially see what influencers are sharing content of your competitors. Essentially mentioned is like Google Alerts on steroids. It gives you a lot more. It gives you Twitter. It gives you a few others. And you can essentially troll your competitors' content and link building efforts and befriend their friends. Because it's likely that even though you're in the same industry, maybe, you will get those backlinks. You will get those relationships because like everyone can be friends. And you want to take what your competitors are doing and do a better job. You never want to just level up to where they were at. You always want to beat it. You don't want to match them. So how can you create superior content? So when you go to Google on page 1 and you type in best luggage, look at what's ranking. You want to rank higher than those pages. And so you need to develop a strategy around better content. So this is tracking the Google code. This is very, very important stuff here, and we're going to go through a few strategies here. Some fundamentals would be long-form, in-depth content. I call it monster value posts. And that's length. You want relevant content, which is keywords. Engaging content, which essentially, if you're using Chrome, Google can actually see how long people spend on a site, which is an indicator of if it's actually relevant. And then essentially having some bonus content upgrades and interstitials that pop up and giveaways, sort of linkable assets that essentially allow you to essentially trade a PDF for maybe an email address. So you want to create these monster value posts where you're essentially building an audience and educating. You want to be obsessive about what the customer wants, not what you want, not promoting your own product, but what is the customer searching for, and hitting those pain points and matching it with what the answers in your blog posts. And if you essentially please the user or the searcher on Google, you will please Google. So length is an indicator of strength to Google, and you want to aim for over 1,900 words. And you can see here in this graph, this is a great graph. I think I got this from, I want to say Neil Patel. And so what you're looking at here is on Google page 1, above 1,900 words is really the sweet spot. And you can see here, I'm ranking on page 10, all the way, it goes down. So you want to be above 1,900 words, and you want to be valuable. So look at the search engine of your competitors. Look at page 1. You need to create better content. And essentially, this is the top 3 organic results for digital marketing. So here's HubSpot. You've got Neil Patel. You've got Wikipedia. And you've got Neil Patel creating massive long-form, in-depth content that ranks extremely well. He has great domain authority, by the way, but he's creating relevant content. And if I look at this page that I landed on, the Digital Marketing Made Simple, a step-by-step guide, he has 3,445 words. It's a freaking essay. So how can you compete with this? Well, you can create a better post, but essentially you need to match roughly his content. And he's creating massively relevant content with great keywords as well. So here's another one, essentially on sumo.com. Here's a content upgrade. So they essentially will give out bonus material. Right here, the bonus material, Chinese factory request for quote, and by clicking that, they essentially can get a PDF and collect the email address. So you're essentially converting those people that are just looking at your blog to essentially swapping them more value, where you get their email address and you can remarket to them, and they become it's a lead magnet for you. And you can increase your engagement, nurture those people over time. However, this is extremely time consuming because you essentially have to create new bonus material for every blog that you create. So it has to be highly relevant to your title and to the rest of the post. So here's another one from Snack Nation. They are great at giveaways, lead magnets, and hooks. So they will create cheats, swipe files, checklists, everything you need to keep you on the page. Video interviews. This increases dwell time. So you want to make sure that you're increasing dwell time and making sure you're creating very, very, very relevant content. Okay, so let's talk about the machine setting this up. So you probably should not be there writing the content. Maybe you can get a start by looking at what I've got going on here, but you can create a machine, and I, of course, put the job description that you can use. You can steal this, swipe this right from me from this post, but you can see what we're looking for in talented writers, and we use Pro Blogger to create to find writers for our blog. So you want to hire writers, you want to recruit them. You can also find an editor to manage the content over time, build a machine, and essentially what you're looking for, you can be anywhere from 15 cents to 25 cents a word, and that's roughly $225 to $750 per post. And so you essentially want them to send you what they've done. So let them send you what they've created as examples. Find examples of what you've seen on Google page 1 that you think is interesting, and show them the style and have a guide and build this engine over time. And this stuff takes time. But the power of a media-driven commerce strategy looks something like this. Right? Over time, you get more and more traffic. A lot of people optimize in e-commerce for conversions, and I'm talking about optimizing for leads. Right? Optimizing and building content over time that ranks extremely well, that creates leads that you can nurture and you can remarket to those individuals over time. So to recap, brands are the new media companies. You want to rank where your audience spends the time. Again, you can have the rented models, but you can also have the unrented models and owning the model of Google and SEO. Again, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. You can essentially not have to spend for this traffic, and you want to use what I've talked about, which is optimizing for speed, building that foundation, then driving backlinks and content simultaneously. Yeah. There's some other stuff you can be doing. Keyword research. Finding keywords that are relevant to you. And I think that's good, Annalisa. I think we're going to open up to questions.
Okay, you got it, Chad. Let's go ahead and open it up to some questions. So I'll go ahead and ask this first one here. It's coming from Andrea. She's wondering, does whether or not you paid for Google advertising impact your organic search results? So in other words, does Google prioritize its advertisers at all in organic search?
I don't believe that they do. Google is all about optimizing for the best customer experience possible. And so I think that they're two different segments of the market.
Yeah. I didn't think so either. I think that, of course, if you, have some, I guess I'll turn on video just to match you up here. I would assume, the more ads you have, hopefully the more clicks you get, and then, the more popular your page becomes, and then the higher up you are on the rank. So I'm sure there's some sort of, flywheel effect. But yeah, I also don't believe that Google prioritizes advertisers. So Andrea, your answer is no, so you're safe without advertising.
I didn't see my slide on the offering the audit. I'm not sure if it disappeared, but I want to give people the opportunity if they want to have a conversation around me doing an audit for them or having a conversation around this. You can always email me at chad@skubana.com, and I'm open to having a conversation. Reach out anytime if you have a question. I know we went through a lot of stuff here, so just wanted to give a shout out. If you want, you can drop it in the chat here, chat@Skubana. Cool.
So I went ahead and I sent that link to everyone in the questions chat. So it's a bonus offer that Skubana offers to you all so a brand strategy audit, as Chad mentioned. So if you go ahead and open the questions tab, there should be a reply from me with a link where you can go ahead and apply for that. So everyone just check your questions box and you should find some of that stuff in there. So I have another question here coming from, are there any specific ways to leverage SEO on Google to boost your Amazon selling?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are doing that. So I have an example, I have an experience share I can share with you, is that somebody created a site, because they optimized their site for authority and for rank on Google, and they created like a listicle of like the best luggage out there, as an example. And they created like a top 10 list. And so on the first one was, hey, their own luggage. And then the second site drove them to a very expensive piece of luggage that was maybe not even relevant. So essentially they owned the content and dominated, but they were driving with their link back to Amazon. And they would swap that link out, by the way, depending on the day. They would swap that link for Amazon if they wanted to drive that traffic to Amazon, or drive it to their own site, depending if they wanted to just increase their discoverability on Amazon versus optimize for just their own website and own the higher margins.
Got it. I know that a tactic that at CPC Strategy we've presented on, at least, is we call it Web to Amazon, where we sort of use the Google ad spend and use Google ads to set up ads that send a customer to your Amazon store page. So that's one tactic that we use here in-house. I'm sure it helps you with organic rank on both, but I know that we have some articles on that as well if anyone would like to read on.
Cool.
So let's say finding keywords that you search up for on Amazon work to boost your strategy on Google. I guess that would be kind of an easy win, right? Integrated reports on what keywords work best for you and kind of implement those on both platforms. Do you find that works well?
So there's something called latent semantic indexing, LSI, and LSI are essentially keywords that are adjacent to what you want to rank for. So if you want to rank for, say, luggage, what are the other words that are adjacent to luggage, like travel or vacation? And essentially, you can find that out by just typing in LSI keywords into Google, and there's sites that will give you for a specific keyword what's adjacent that you should be using, and you should be using that LSI content in your Amazon listings and off Amazon.
Okay, it's a great thing to point out there. Chad always knows all the tools for Amazon and everything else. So another question here, are there specific SEO tactics you can use within Amazon that can help you kind of enhance your organic ranking, and then maybe what's important to Amazon when they're looking at the rank?
Yeah, so for me, I think one of the biggest indicators, so for Google, it's about relevancy, although that's changing with Google Shopping Actions. For Amazon, it's about relevancy, it's about click-through rate, but it's also about conversion rate. And so that's like the biggest indicator, I think, is like Amazon makes the most money when you actually buy something. So like, yeah, they make money on the pick taxi on FBA. They make money when you do the review program. on an early reviewer program, but they make the most money when there's a conversion. So Amazon's going to essentially rank others in their system, in their A9 algorithm, based on what I believe is really having the best keywords that converts on and that converts it. It gets people to the buy box, right, and checks out.
So constantly be keyword harvesting when it comes to Amazon, I guess is.
Yeah, I coined this word, always be harvesting, ABH. And so you always want to understand what's happening. You can look at the search term reports. Amazon just launched a brand report that gives you a lot of insights in terms of what's converting on your site with searches, et cetera. Use those reports that Amazon gives you and keep optimizing. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So I have a question here that I'm not too familiar with, so hopefully you are a little bit more familiar with. So what's your strategy for keyword research, mainly for Ahrefs?
Yeah, Ahrefs, the website, the tool that I use for a lot of spying and competitive intelligence. So you can look at other sites and benchmark. Like, so what we did is before we started on this journey of content marketing, and all of our leads coming into Skubana, for example, have all been about organic traffic. We don't advertise at all. If you type in Skubana right now, you can see all of our competitors and their grandmothers are pretty much bidding on our name. And the way to really do that is to build an audience and to build enough value where people want to try to compete with you even though they can't. So with Ahrefs, what we did was we looked at other people who have had massive marketing spend that are maybe adjacent in our space and try to figure out what pages are driving the most traffic for them, and then figure out how we can optimize our content to essentially create better content than what they've already have out there. So it's not just about keywords, it's just about what is the most relevant traffic that you want to be ranking for. You could actually look on Ahrefs to figure out what keywords get the most traffic and optimize for those. It takes a lot of time to figure that out.
Got it. So for guest blog posts, I know you mentioned about this and we only have time for a couple of questions, so I'll ask this kind of as a two-in-one. When doing a guest post, should we create different content for each post, or does a shotgun approach and just kind of covering a ton of different, should we create different content for each post? Or does a shotgun approach?
So you need to make sure that all your content is unique. So you never want to have duplicate content. That's very, very, very important. You want to I like to write great, for someone who has a really good authority on Google, I try to write really great content for them, monster value posts. If it's not that great of authority, maybe put a second fiddle content writer on that piece, depending. But I try to write really, really good content that can rank really well and essentially tell Google that we're the authority and that we know what we're talking about and that we're experts.
Okay, great. And then if a specific topic already has a featured snippet on Google, would you suggest still kind of going after it if you think you can tackle it yourself?
So you're saying if you type in best luggage and Google serves up, can you reframe the question?
If a specific topic has a featured snippet on Google, is it wise to still compete for these keywords? So I guess when Google has that snippet, when you ask a question and there's a specific blog post that might be more popular that they boost up, would you say it's wise to sort of compete for these keywords, or do you think maybe answering a different kind of question would be a better tactic?
I think it's extremely wise. So as long as those questions are extremely relevant to you, you can definitely rank for those keywords. You just have to do some research and figure out, hey, what's the length of the post? Are people spending a lot of time? How can I create a better post that's more relevant, that answers the questions even better than what our competitors have?
Yeah.
So yeah, of course, it's possible. You can always uproot the incumbent. It just takes time and it takes research, and it takes, that's why people like using these rented channels, because essentially they can just spend money to try to make money, and if you can figure out those unit economics, it works. Whereas SEO, like I mentioned early in the presentation, it's this gift that just keeps on giving.
For sure.
But it is a marathon. It's a marathon, right? It's not going to be overnight.
Okay. We're getting so many questions that come in, but I think we have to stop this before, so we have time for our next presentation, or should we just answer very quickly, Chad? Can you recycle content? If so, how often?
Recycle content?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, look, you can write, like, let's just say I was doing a post on inventory management, right? There's different ways you can talk about inventory management. There's so many directions you can go into, right? But you know that the root word is inventory management. Or like if you're in the luggage space, right? You know that it's travel, vacation, luggage, carry-on, etc. And there's so many different posts you can make about that process. So yeah, you can recycle stuff, but like make sure it's unique, it's extremely valuable, long form, everything that I mentioned, just follow to a T.
Okay, so just always add to it probably. And then last one I'll ask, how often do you recommend coming up with a new blog post? I guess as frequently as possible, right?
Well, it's not just about the quantity, it's about the quality. So like if you're gonna, if you're gonna, so you can do a blog post a week or you can do 3 a week, but if they're not monster value and they're never gonna rank really well, then like who cares? So like I would pick topics that you want to, that are extremely long form that you want to rank for based on traffic sources of say competitors that you're trying to rank for. So if it's luggage, right, create a massive post around luggage. It's so helpful with videos, increase that dwell time, make sure you have interstitials baked into your site so you can essentially get those leads as well, and make sure you're building backlinks to those exact pages. And by the way, I know there's so much to cover here. Like I said, you can email me, chat@Skubana. Alicia dropped into the chat, and maybe even in the replay, we'll put in a link to the audit so we can do an audit. We can spend time together to go through this. I'm going to essentially give 10 different individuals that apply for this an audit for free, and I look forward to talking.
Okay, so that about wraps it up. We have now about 12 minutes for our next presentation. So I'd like to thank Chad for giving us all a really extensive and thorough presentation on SEO and some strategies there to help kind of boost your overall brand on the e-commerce landscape, not just Amazon.
Yeah.
So thanks, Chad, for being here. And
thank you for having me. It was great.
Yeah, of course. I'm going to go ahead and freeze frame. We do have Avalera presenting next, and they'll be kind of touching on, they are the experts when it comes to taxes and really just understanding what the heck all these taxes mean and kind of how to help yourself with your margins and best set up your brand with taxes when it comes to Amazon particularly. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to make myself the presenter. I'm going to show everyone this timeline agenda once more. And yeah, I'll see you back in about 10 minutes. Thanks, everyone.